let's move on to one of the favorite New Year's resolutions, which is exercise, although we're going to frame that as physical movement. So if you look at the literature on burnout, stress, and exercise or physical movement, you will see this high correlation. And it really does make sense because if you think about the fight or flight response, both of those, your body is gearing up for pretty intense action. So whether you are fighting off that polar bear that Masha might actually have seen. Actually, I want to know that, Masha, if you've ever seen a polar bear. And then the other response is flight, which means you want to run as fast as possible. So it does make sense that physical exercise should help reduce stress because either you've fought it off or you've run from whatever the danger is. And in fact, it also, we hear that phrase runner's high because if you are doing that intense physical activity, it does produce that dopamine, which is that feeling we get of feeling on top of the world and feeling great, feeling energetic. So it's also one of the hardest things for most of us to do. In fact, if that was a New Year's resolution that you made back on January 1st, there's a good chance you've already given up on it. It's so hard to do sometimes. So let's talk first of all about what advantages do we see for physical movement, or do you? Is this something that's incorporated in your stress management routine? And Brian says, hopefully as little as possible.
How rude.
This is how it usually goes. Let's go for a walk. I'm busy. Okay, well, I'll wait.
It's always on her
No.
time. She never tries to figure out whether I'm available. Half the time I just start doing something. She's like, I'm going for a walk. You want to go? You should go. Like, no, I'm good. Although I'm not calling them New Year's resolutions anymore. I kind of like the idea of making it a mindset change instead of a goal or a resolution. So I told her I was going to try to make a growth mindset goal of enjoying walks. And that's going to be very difficult for me because walking and hiking has never been something I've enjoyed.
Oh, you and my daughter get along just fine.
Well, why walk somewhere when you got a perfectly good engine that gets you there quicker?
Yep.
And can be more fun.
Okay, but let's talk about physical activity that you need for stress reduction, because I think it sounds to me, in some cases, and Brian, you're one of those, as soon as I say walk, I feel like I'm already stressing you out. And it's probably true because I've drug you on some long hikes and some long bike rides where to this day you still say that I was trying to kill you. So
I swear it's not that steep. It's only 2 miles. 1,000-foot climb, but it's only 2 miles.
Hanging lake climb, 1 mile vertical.
So, and I have to admit that that's true because when I was in my 20s, I was very active. I did mountain biking. I did a lot of hiking. I did tons of walking, tons of running. I worked out at the gym. And so my idea of a relaxing hike is probably not the same as most people's ideas. So yes, I have to admit, I've tried to drag Brian on a lot of things that would have stressed him out.
Well, before, it's not like I don't like to exercise. I just want to enjoy it, and I don't enjoy walking.
Yes.
So when I was younger, before my shoulders gave out, I played a lot of racquetball. When I met you, I started bike riding, which I never thought I'd do, and I actually quite enjoy that. But once again, body started giving me issues. I still like to do it, but the e-bike makes it much more comfortable now.
Yeah.
But my legs are turning, so it is movement.
Yeah.
It is physical movement.
We're true full-time RVers. We have our e-bikes. Okay, so we've talked about how exercise can stress you out if you think about it in a way of some high-intensity exercise. But what about advantages of low intensity? what have we found? Because interestingly enough, you don't have to go out there and mountain bike, hike, run, lift weights. You don't have to do these high intensity exercises. Physical movement, even low intensity, will help with stress. So just curious, what types of experience have you had with low intensity exercises?
So there's one thing that I was practicing for quite some time. I'm still grounded from physical activity. My last experience, I'm one of the I used to love going to the gym and hitting it hard and have health goals. And then one day I woke up and like, oh, this is dumb. It just kind of, my mindset changed, and that's probably had a lot to do with a symptom of burnout because I suddenly had no time for it or desire. And when I was recovering, my physical therapist had a bright idea of suggesting that I start swimming, still in my crisis mode. And that was before I met my integrated care professional who, grounded me to this day, which I'm really grateful for. So I was never a swimmer. And I decided I'm going to have the growth mindset. I'm going to learn how to swim. I'm going to go in there. I put my belly belt on just in case, I know how to swim, but, something told me to do it. And I'm glad I did, because halfway through the pool, that belt was my lifeline. Because my body gave out. I could not. I was so fatigued. I couldn't even float. So that was a rude awakening that I'm not ready for that level of physical activity, even though my spirit was willing, my flesh was weak. There was no way it was going to happen. But I kept trying, that wasn't enough. I came back the next day and the next day, and I failed and I failed and I failed. And then once I met my doctor, she's like, "You did what?" She's like, "Well, how did that go?" Well, I told her that, I almost ended up a very embarrassing rescue on YouTube. And she's like, "Uh-huh, I can see why. Nothing else that elevates your blood pressure." So I was very limited to things that I could do. I did enjoy walking. And initially that was a struggle too, because when you're in burnout, your body is physically unable to keep up and do certain things. And one of those things is high intensity workouts, is just scratch it out until you're ready. Your organs need to heal first. Then you can start working on, your shape and your weight loss goals or whatnot.
It's not
But
even
what
high intensity workouts, though. I'm going to interject here. On our sabbatical, after we left Texas and went back for a short time, we traveled to Michigan through various different states and made a whole round trip. We covered like 7 to 9 states that summer, mostly to get the stickers. But the thing is Michelle wanted to go and do all this stuff, and I kind of wanted to go do it, but I really didn't have the capacity to do it. I didn't. We would go somewhere, and I'd be walking, and then I'd be like, "No, I'm done." We did see some things. We got to see some cool things, but there's not, depending on your level of burnout, how much stress you have going on, you really do have a hard time trying to do low intensity workout, let alone high intensity workout, because you just don't have the energy, and your mind just doesn't want to do it. And if your mind doesn't want to do it, you can't make your body do it.
So you guys are bringing out a really important point, which is when you hit that level of intense exhaustion and burnout, you really don't have any fuel left in the tank to go out. So, if you're going to see your average doctor, they're going to tell you to get 5 days of at least 30 minutes of medium intensity exercise. But what I'm hearing from both of you is there is no way you could have done that when you were in that burnout phase. Does that
No
sound
way.
accurate?
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
It took over a year before I was even willing to really consider to start walking or go. Well, it's almost been 2 years, and going through this whole idea of rekindle and putting this all together, that I finally get to a point where I have energy and I actually want to go out and do something or go walking or whatever. I mean, that's 2 years of moving through this. Masha was smarter than me. She went and got the health professionals that she needed to help her get along, but I did not. But then I'm a guy and I'm stubborn. So
No comment.
One
So here's another, apparently this is another contradictory where it's like, okay, when you're very stressed, physical exercise and movement will help release that stress. But when you get to that level of burnout, you're just not able to do it. So what can people do? What was recommended for you, Masha? Was there some level of low intensity that was recommended, or how did your physician walk you through this?